gentlemen, welcome back. I think this is episode 5 of
Yeah, 5.
the Relay podcast slash Filmcast slash movie review podcast. But we are back with a different film, of course. This time it's going to be Good Time.
Good movie.
Good movie. No, it's going to be Good Time. Yeah, anything you want to get into before? Things don't change every day. I mean, pretty much do the same thing. Not really nothing new to talk about.
No, nothing has changed except the AHL canceled, which is not
Yes, that is true.
which is not exciting. But also, the Bundesliga is starting back up this weekend, so that's a good sign.
And did you see that like Chris Paul, Giannis, LeBron James, everybody like met together to discuss resuming play, even though they have
doesn't mean anything.
no weight about they have no weight over any decisions. We didn't talk. What'd you do for Mother's Day?
A lot. I went out for a walk. Then I went and I dropped food off to my grandma's house, and then I just posted up at the crib.
Yeah, I went to Cambridge to see my grandparents, kind of sit from a distance or whatever, and then came back and had a barbecue. But I came back for a nap. We were all just dead because we go to our grandma's and they just stuff us with candy. But it's a good day. You can't really do much, but yeah. But anyways, we can get into this flick. So as I said, we are doing Good Time. It's a 2017 crime thriller film directed by Josh and Bennie Safdie and written by Josh Safdie and Ronald Bronstein. Little description here: stars Robert Pattinson as a bank robber desperately trying to get enough money to pay for bail for his developmentally disabled brother. When I first read the description, because I've read a couple different descriptions, it said kind of along the same things, but then added in the end that it leads them into like the dark underworld of New York, like criminal underworld, but like not really. I mean, it's a dark movie, but I wouldn't say like the underworld of New York.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he would
shouldn't.
have. I don't think he would have had a hard time getting there himself. His character's kind of a scumbag.
He is a wild character. A lot to this movie, but let's just get into it. What do you think?
So I've decided that I actually really like Bennie and Josh Safdie. Just like based off of this one, and of course, it seems like there's a lot of similarities to Uncut Gems. And
I think this movie would be even better if you saw it before Uncut Gems, for sure.
It's very stress-inducing. It's fast-paced, and the shots include a lot of close-ups. And in terms of the stress-inducing, the immediate moment I'm thinking of is when they're in the jewelry shop. I'm thinking of Uncut Gems. When they're in the bail bonds shop, and there's like 5 different things going on. The guy's got 2 phones in his hand. The girl's crying with her mom, and the credit card's not working.
That girl was such a bitch to her mom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she was so horrible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff in this film seems to be perfected into Uncut Gems. Like
cleaned up.
Yeah. And like one major thing, of course, is the Safdie brothers definitely have like a distinct perspective on nightlife. In terms of the cinematography and stuff, which is always beautiful and everything that they do. You can see they put a lot of work into it, but also in the close-up shots, how the movies are paced. It's just like this film seems like an unfinished and unprotected or unperfected Uncut Gems.
Definitely. I think it's supposed to feel like very real. And I think part of that, like, what I found interesting is in a lot of bank robbery movies, it was very different how they even did the bank robbery. Like most movies you see that are more action-packed, like people come in guns blazing, like firing, making a lot of noise. Like I don't think there was one gun in this entire movie, and I think that was purposeful. That it feels a little more real, and they're not high-level criminals. He's pretty much just doing anything he can to get by, like step by step. It's like each little thing he faces a problem. He's such a manipulative character. First of all, I love the performances by Rob. Like I haven't seen Robert Pattinson in a performance like this before. It was really interesting to see. And apparently he kind of just emailed them out of the blue. He had saw like a still of one of their movies called Heaven Knows What, about like a heroin addict going around looking for a fix in New York. and like all the movies are in New York pretty much in there from their whatever films they made. And this was like the first big movie they made. It was kind of just like a lot of like short, edgy short films, but something kind of attracted Robert Pattinson. I think probably part of it was breaking out of that like Twilight mold,
Yeah.
where he was kind of in the same character and thought of as like, I don't know, it's just Twilight's whatever. But this is definitely a different role from him. And Benny Safdie, I thought he did an amazing job with playing his brother.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely a challenge to take on a role like that. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of try and cast someone to play a role like that, not just because of the fact that it's like stress inducing, just making a film like that where you're asked so much of you in terms of like the physical tasks and stuff. And that was one of the points they made in an interview, was that they didn't want to put
It was like a moral boundary where they felt
yeah.
like they interviewed so many really good people, but like the schedule and the movements and just everything about the movie, they felt like they'd almost be pushing them to points where they didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But and then if you're gonna choose somebody to act, you gotta respect the character. You can't be really pushing it. And I thought he did.
Yeah.
Like I thought the first 30 minutes of this movie was amazing. Like I thought it was almost perfect. Like the opening scene of the conversation with him meeting with whatever the counselor was, to him walking into the bank robbery scene, I thought it was all amazing. Middle parts I thought there was some parts that were a little dragged out where it could have picked it up again, but the first 30 minutes was like, that was awesome.
Yeah. And for Robert Pattinson, like his performance probably his best I've seen. And like it doesn't really go into a lot of the character development because of how the movie's paced and
It's all
how it's
one
just
night.
kind of one major disaster after another he has to take care of. But there's a couple instances where like the one part in the back and forth that he has with the other criminal in the apartment about how he's like, oh, I'm not like you. You're like,
He said you're like a leech on society.
yeah.
What
And
are you?
so pretty much he just tries to justify himself with everything he does. And there's a ton of instances where he does that, like where he's super contradictory to everything else he's doing. Like when he's in the house and they're watching Cops and he's like, oh, turn this off. I don't want them to try and justify this. And then it goes on to him on the news. And so he doesn't want to have to justify to her what he's done. So he just kisses her and gets it out of the way, which is another
16.
Yeah, which is just another disturbing part of it. But I mean, everything, you have to go back, and it seems like everything he's doing is out of the love of his brother. He hates that he's put his brother in this position, and it's like he's going to do everything he can to get him back. And you can look at it from a couple different perspectives where he was just using him the whole time. But I think the lengths that he goes to where he's like, no, I want to get him out tonight. It seems like it comes from a good place, despite how horrible of a person he actually is.
Yeah, their relationship's pretty interesting because even right off the bat when he pulls him out of like the kind of meeting that Benny is in with, wait, what is that his name? What's his name? Who's the character's name? Yeah, I forgot his Nick. Yeah. When he pulls him out and he was like, is that who you think you are? Like he's kind of, I guess he thinks he's bigger than somebody that's just labeled as somebody with disabilities. And he's kind of like pushing him to be a bigger person, but then he gets him involved in like bank robberies and stuff like that. So just a very complicated relationship where you can tell there definitely is a deep love, but it's also, he is definitely using him to a certain extent, because I guarantee Nick wouldn't be going out robbing banks if it wasn't for Pattinson's character.
Yeah, for sure. And like we were talking about the Safdie brothers and how Benny Safdie does like a great job in this movie, but it seems like the only two Safdie films I've seen are this one and Uncut Gems. But what I'm seeing is they're very involved in a lot of their movies. Like they're always very hands-on. Like in Uncut Gems, I believe it's Josh Safdie's actually in the movie
Mhm.
at some point, and you see in this that I actually read something. There's a scene, well, the opening scene. Benny Safdie's character, while he's sitting there, is actually holding the boom mic for
Really?
for the shot. Yeah, and so that's just a cool story. But and then also when this film was starting to shoot, a week before Benny Safdie had his first kid, and then he had to go and film this. And then on top of that, he was in charge of editing the whole movie, which is just like,
Yeah,
you,
they pretty much go to any length, kind of like to make it a very low budget film. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of what they've used to. They in an interview maybe read the same thing. They said that if they were given, because I think after this film they were giving a lot more money for uncut gems. So they were saying even if they were given $20 million, they would still act like their budget was $40, just because that's what they've been kind of born doing. Like you can tell they were the kids in the backyard making home movies, like just creating content and doing their own thing because it comes through. Just their stuff is very real.
yeah. And I would honestly, I would like to see them make a movie where it like,
Switch it up a bit.
yeah, where it wasn't just like this, because of course their two major releases, Uncut Gems and Good Time, both have very similar themes.
And score.
Yeah, and
And I love the
score.
score. It's just once you've seen Uncut Gems, it's very similar.
Yeah, but I think the story itself is great overall. It's one of the great thrillers I think I've seen in the past couple of years. It's there's a lot of good curveballs that are thrown at Connie throughout the whole movie. Like, it's the fact that he picked up the wrong guy. Like,
Oh my god. Well, because I heard him yelling. I'm like, this guy sounds a bit different, and
yeah,
he's talking very coherently. Because the guy looked like Benny
yeah.
Safdie. So then I was like, what is going on here? He's like jumping on him, he's freaking out, and I'm like, oh, this is the total. And then he's like, I clearly made a mistake. I'm like, oh, it's a totally wrong dude. But he looked like Jesse Pollock. Did you notice that?
No.
Yeah, it kind of looked like him, and that eye was brutal.
Another strange thing that I heard from an interview from Robert Pattinson on this film was, so the scene with the dog.
Yeah.
Um, so you know how earlier in the film he mentions that he's like, "Oh, I think I was a dog in a past life
Yeah,
because
he
they
says
always
some
loved
weird
me."
stuff.
And so he chills with his girlfriend's dog early in, or like their three dogs in the bed earlier in the movie.
Mhm.
And then in the room when the drug dealer comes, it's very brief, but in a Jimmy Kimmel interview, Pattinson said that he was actually supposed to be giving the dog a hand job.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, so I don't, but like the fact that I found that out after the movie, it was kind of like, what? Like,
Yeah.
why did I need to know that at all? But
I mean, if he did it, it would just add to like it wouldn't be so out of park, just like out of left field. Like this movie's odd. That was another question I had. Like, why was the dog so loyal to him? Like he
yeah,
just met this dog and he's already like attacking
but I
the
think that
other.
was the point, like that they were trying to call back from earlier in the film, how like
Yeah,
he was just
maybe I
saying
just
that
didn't
dogs
connect that
like
when I
him.
was watching it, but it makes sense now. I guess he's got that dog connection.
Yeah. Some stuff I didn't like. I thought the ending was very rushed. I thought Connie's story kind of ended very abruptly, how he just walked out of the house and it was just done. I
Yeah,
thought
the guy just falls
also
off the building.
I thought that was unnecessary, really. Like, I mean, um, one thing I'm getting from the Safdie brothers is they like to just build, 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 and then just end it, which is
Yeah,
like,
like Adam Sandler got shot in the head and
yeah,
then you're like, it's done. It's just, yeah, like they just, like they described, it's just like one really bad night. And yeah, I guess sometimes that means that the ending of the story is not going to be so sad. Like there's not one happy point in this movie, really. Like you
no,
might laugh at certain scenes, but it's not really intentional. It's just kind of like because how absurd the movie is. Like when he just takes their hair dye, he's just like, I'm just
yeah.
like dye my hair blonde. The girl walks in, he's got it all like slicked back, and then he
But
walks
that's
into
because he like needed to, like he
that's true,
wanted,
switch it
yeah,
up, yeah. And then but then he just walks into their kitchens like, you want something to eat, and then goes into
yeah,
their fridge, Also, what was in that fridge again? Was she cooking like crack or something? Like, was she?
Yeah, I don't know. It was something sketchy, but
Because then he asked for drugs and she brought back like Oxycontin. So I figured there definitely was something like in that. Even the grandma seemed so nice in the wheel trans.
yeah.
And then she was just screaming at her daughter. Clearly, don't have a great relationship. But that's kind of another thing, how like just like manipulative he is, and just like how he just kind of like pushes his way through things. Even when like originally the grandma was trying to get on the wheel trans with that old dude, he's like, "Can I go first? My brother doesn't have a jacket," and just pushes ahead against this like 90-year-old like old dude. And it's like he just pushes his way through everything in literally every scenario. He just tells people, "This is what we're doing. This is what we're gonna do it." Even to the girl he just met, he's like, "We're gonna take your car. We're gonna go here. We're gonna go there."
I
It was
think
just
that was more. I agree with you, but I'm saying for the girl, it was more just like um he thought he had everything under control, and then he realized, okay, you're younger, you have no value to me. I'm just gonna walk all over you.
yeah.
Whereas in other people, like where like it's more realistic that he could walk all over like a 16-year-old girl.
I think she was
Whereas
kind
in
of
other,
in awe of like an older guy giving her
yeah,
attention.
and he has to like in a lot of cases he has to try and convince other people who are at his age and realize how much of just like a scumbag he is. He has to try and convince them to help him out a lot of the cases, like you
Even
see.
manipulated the cops.
Yeah. So there's a lot of instances like that. In terms of other stuff I didn't really like, I thought, like you mentioned earlier, after getting so invested within like the first hour of the movie, I thought the pacing really threw me
Mm-hmm.
off. And like the whole part in the house was just really drawn out. Although it added a lot to the story, I was like, okay, let's pick it up here. What are we doing? And like he was talking to his mom on the phone. That never panned out to anything. There
Yeah.
was just a lot of stuff that I think they could have.
Just like a lot of added like character development, but like didn't do too much for the story, I guess.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If you're gonna put all of these little pieces of character development, let the ending pay off. Whereas I don't think it did.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just see him walk into a car and you never see him again, and it's like,
And I think what I
all
liked
right,
about Uncut Gems is that although it's dark and stressful, like you still kind of have your funny moments where like Adam Sandler's like locked in a trunk, pretty much naked, and his wife has to come get him. There's like more lighthearted moments. When through like this movie, you get no break. Like it's all dark and
yeah,
it's all depressing. There's nothing good about it. It's not a good time. Like it's a good movie, but there's nothing light about it from start to finish. Really, probably like the happiest moment is kind of like seeing Nick at the end kind of doing his own thing, but kind of that wasn't even that. It was also kind of sad because he's kind of separated from his brother now, and he kind of himself is realizing that his brother kind of screwed him over.
yeah.
But
In
yeah, a
terms of
lot
like
of brutal scenes.
yeah, for like a logistical side of the movie as well, like I don't know what year this was supposed to take place, but I feel like for someone like Nick to be arrested, they're generally assessed for their like if they were to have a disability before being put into a prison like that. That was just one kind of thing that I was like, okay,
The only thing I can think with that is that he doesn't really talk a lot, and you see that. So maybe he just didn't say anything, and they're like, "Okay, you're
yeah.
going to the slammer." And then I think the reason why he got released, I think, is for that reason exactly. Um, but yeah, no, I saw that. And the one thing I really like, first of all, blackface, pretty much, right?
Well, I it's tough because it's not necessarily
It's not for
blackface.
that reason. It's not for that reason at all. It's just
Yeah.
it's different. It was a bit surprising to see. And obviously,
And it's smart. It's
there's
smart for the scenario that they were
well,
in, right?
here's the
Like,
situation. It's like, and what they said in the interview as well is that this whole thing is supposed to be very real, and kind of like even the scene where the security guard, he makes like Pattinson makes him believe that he's a security guard and he broke in, kind of has to do with some racial things as well. But that's what they said. It's like we're not holding it back because it's true, and it's not like they were wearing the mask really to make fun of black people. It was just smart to cover up their disguise.
Yeah,
So
and in addition to the racial thing you're talking about, they pretty much threw that girl away for no reason. The 16-year-old girl, really,
yeah, she just got caught.
that was just another thing that I was like, what's going on? Like, why is she getting thrown away? But
And then and another thing was like because their faces were covered, I don't get how they got pulled over by the cops. Or like maybe because
yeah,
there was just two guys walking around that they
they
were
went
looking
into
for
the
suspicious.
dominoes. They went
That's
into the
true.
dominoes. They probably could have been.
That was another thing. He brought so much attention to himself by like running the dominoes and like screaming and making all
Yeah.
this noise. Like you could have done something. I don't know. I guess you had to wash it off, and it was the first place they found. But it's just it was intense. But no, I thought Pattinson was amazing in this movie. Like he fit it perfectly
Yeah, definitely.
for what it was.
For everything that we liked and everything that we disliked, my final rating is, and I still really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it an 8.
I was gonna I was gonna give it exactly an 8.
Yeah, the reason is because in comparison to the other films that we watched, it had, I would say, more of an entertainment value than Midsummer, but it didn't make me like I didn't come out of it with anything.
No, I ended the movie and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and
there was nothing that really made me think afterwards when it was done, and I don't think that's like a mandatory thing for any movie, especially a thriller. But in just comparison to the story, and the ending was a big thing for me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think the
just the
beginning kind
abruptness
of
of it.
threw me off pace a little bit, just because it was very good and really emotional, and then it kind of it slowed down a bit. Um, but yeah, no, I'd give it 8 as well because I don't think I'll ever watch the movie again. And some
Yeah,
movies, it's just because there's no need to. You saw what it was for. It's not like you're gonna find anything new from watching it again. And it's not. I don't think the plot is anything like it's a crazy plot, but I don't think the story will drive you enough in a rewatch that like keeps you going throughout it.
but
And it's
and
just like
that
it's just
being
a
said, it's
depressing
also
movie.
yeah, but it's also a film that I would recommend to other people. Like
Definitely,
I think it's
yeah.
definitely something that you can watch with like your family or with anyone really, and I think you'll enjoy it. I just don't think it offers that much for you, much like Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like you don't really with Uncut Gems and this, the two things, you feel it a lot more in Uncut Gems, but there's just so much stress, and then it's just over. Like it's just
Yeah.
instant relief, and you don't really feel the need to go back and think on anything. So
And I
that's
think even Uncut Gems had a little more of an impact at the ending where it's like Adam Sandler's character like died. So you're like, first of all, you're like, whoa, that was crazy. And then you're kind of looking at like how his character developed and how he kind of brought it upon himself, where it's like with Good Time at the end of it, you're like, you almost expected it, I would say. You kind of knew this guy was going to jail. Like he was pretty much living in this dude's apartment. And then you're like, there's no way he gets out of this. It's just too many things go wrong. Yeah, but I really like their style, and I think they should continue it, but definitely like switch things up with whatever the next project is. But I like it's what I'll give it is it's different than almost any other movie you'll watch. Like it's
yeah,
very different.
yeah, and the way that these guys style their movies, it also they attract. They've have enough clout now where they can attract big name actors and put them in scenarios where they aren't going to be like known for, like Adam Sandler, obviously, and of course Robert Pattinson. Um, so I think if they're and like their storytelling is so good in the sense that um, there was nothing I expected from any of these crazy twists and turns that happened throughout the
No, it
movie,
keeps you guessing.
and like there's so many times where you're like, oh, this guy's screwed, and then he's just not, and that comes with the stress of the movie because you think it's going to be over and then it's just not. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, 8.
yeah.
It's definitely good.
And one thing that really added on to it, and yeah, definitely go watch this. It's definitely worth a watch. You're not, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Like, okay, to be fair, like maybe it's not a movie for everybody. It may be a little too dark and intense. Like, I don't think my parents would like this movie, but many parents maybe would. Um, it's not for everybody else, but I would say like when you say bank robbing, like bank robbing movie, this is not what you think. It's a very different style. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's like not an action movie. It's like it's kind of another thing like Room, where it's like it's pretty much based on this guy's relationship and just how manipulative and how really just he's such a scumbag. He's such a horrible person. But you're almost like I don't really know if you're rooting for him, but like you definitely kind of want to see him keep going, see what he can get up to.
And there was a couple of times too where I would, like when he was in the next room, like this is where like okay, there's a couple of instances also where I think it kind of had some redeeming factors to the character, like when he's in the room next to who he thinks is his brother, and he's feeding the lady some yogurt or whatever. I thought he was going to pull the plug on her, so then the cop would go over and see, like, just check out what was going on, so then he would have access to the room. But that was just, like, really foreshadowing for me, but I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, what was the point of that scene, though? I was very confused.
I think that whole thing was to just show you that this is, like, a compassionate guy.
He just has, just levels to his character. It was I couldn't tell if the girl was blind or what her deal was, but
yeah.
that was, definitely interesting. But let me see if I have anything else that I wanted to say here. One of the things was like, no, it's not really anything. Just like, I guess little things like the keychain to the guy's apartment had probably 1 million keys on it. And he just walks up and finds the perfect one and fits it right in. Just like kind of the loyalty to the dog's loyalty to Pattinson. But I guess that makes sense because I guess he's the dog whisperer and he thinks he's a dog in another life.
And for like the key thing, like you're saying, I feel like that's just
there's no.
They were going to get into the apartment regardless. Yeah. There's no need to like sit there and go through every single one. But,
but cinematography was great. I love the use of like the red and blue flares. It's it kind of gave the city itself character. Like I feel like the city was a character in this movie.
Yeah,
like it definitely added to this. It definitely added to it was definitely a part of the movie and added to it. Just kind of like the dark, mysterious. That's why when it said kind of like the description said criminal underworld, I thought it was going to get to that, but I don't know. I don't think it really got in the underworld because it didn't get like it was with some sketchy characters, but it never got that crazy.
Yeah, so 8.
Yeah, definitely go watch it, and if you don't like it, don't blame us. So that was Good Time, and now we're going to move on to probably, I mean, we talked about Good Time as a movie that you probably really only need to see once, I think. Do you agree?
Yeah, but
maybe I could see myself down the road watching it, but definitely not anytime soon.
Like, I don't think it's a movie like that you like immediately are gonna want to see again because you get everything out of it. But yeah, I can. This is definitely a rewatchable movie. I think
just down the road, especially because of the performances. But like, yeah, there's not many things where it's like you rewatch it. Like, did I miss that? Did you miss that? You probably didn't miss much. But anyways, we'll move on to our list. So I didn't put mine really in any particular order, but you do you. What do you wanna?
So I'll start with Mother. I don't know if I think I saw it with you. We
saw it together.
That movie, I think it is rewatchable in its content in terms of there probably are things that you can go back and find, but I think you only need to watch it once because there's so many disturbing parts that it's honestly going to be hard for you to want to force yourself to go back and watch again.
It's shocking. The only reason why I feel like I'd want to watch it again is after seeing Midsommar. Just because, like, I feel like they were kind of like, they had the same feel where it was just very, like, disturbing and, like, what just happened? Yeah, when did that movie come out? I feel like we saw it a long time ago.
2015, maybe?
Yeah, like, I don't even remember if I liked that movie or not. Like,
I think the whole thing itself was a trip. Like the end was just like, I don't know what's going on. I remember the ending very distinctly because I remember it being like, what?
I just remember it being like
Okay,
Afghanistan.
everyone goes to their house. Everyone.
Because at first it builds up and it's just one dude chilling, and then you're like, what is this? What's this guy up to? Creeping around. Next thing you know, World War Z's going on. There's
Yeah.
literally a million people.
No, but the thing that threw me off the most and why I can't watch it again is with the baby.
The baby, yeah, it's definitely intense, but probably a movie you should watch once just to be like, just
Yeah.
experience it. And a movie that's kind of down the same road for me with that is like Human Centipede. So that'll be
Oh,
my number 5. A movie where it's like, I get if you don't want to watch it, but if you're up for it, watch it once and don't ever watch it again. Just kind of experience how disturbing of a movie it is. And if that's your type of thing and you do want to watch it again, might want to check with a doctor, because that it's not even like that good of a movie. It's just like so messed up. And I feel like it's just famous because it's so messed up. So just watch it once and then forget you ever watched it.
I think I may have watched like 10 minutes of it when I was like 12, and I was like,
There's
no.
two. There's 2 other movies after it as
Yeah.
well. The second movie is this guy who's like mentally disabled, and he watched the original movie. So like it's
Yeah.
like the movie isn't like the movie, and then he decides to do his own, but with like 50 people. But instead he uses like, because the first guy was at least a surgeon, like he knew what he was doing. This guy's just like stapling people together, doing his own thing. And then the third movie is based off a guy that saw the first 2 movies. So it's another one where they
Oh
saw
my
the movie.
God. Like,
And so there's this it all revolves around one prison, and the dean or the warden, he's having trouble, like, I guess, controlling his prisoners. So then this guy comes in and it's like, have you seen these movies? We need to do this. And they do a line of 500 prisoners and one human centipede. Like, you want to be the front guy. Like, imagine you're the last guy, you're getting that dirty poo. Like,
well, what happens if you are the front guy? Because you're the, like,
you're
well, I
eating,
don't think it matters if you're the last guy.
yeah, like, you're eating nice, you're better, but you got some dude sewed up to your booty. Like,
No, but if you're the first guy, you're living nice. Yeah.
you're living real nice. And oof.
I'm not gonna say living lavish because you're still in a human centipede. But.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, but you're definitely living better than the guy that's got his lips surrounding your anus and just taking all that work. So horrible. Like, first one's definitely like the production quality dropped off so hard after the first one. Like, it's just, but yeah, give it a try, or don't. Like,
yeah, life will be better don't. I think you'll be
your
fine.
life will be better without it, probably.
Another one I have is called Elephant. I don't know. Have you seen it?
No, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard a lot of people say don't watch it, or like watch it once.
It's very loosely based around the Columbine shooting. And it's actually interesting because the film, it doesn't give you any setting of like what the school's name is or where they are or anything. So it really kind of lets you interpret it a lot. But I think it is a very disturbing experience because you see how much the kids are into it. And yeah.
Kind of seems like my type of movie, but I can see it's probably pretty tough to get through. Yeah, just like they're fascinated by like Nazis and stuff like that. Yeah, that sounds interesting. This seems like a pretty like low-key movie.
Yeah, it's not that big. I remember I watched it when I was really young just because it happened to be on TV one day and I was like, wow. But yeah.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart. Yeah, that looks intense. Maybe I'll give it a try when I'm in a very different mood than right now. Anyways, I'll move on to my next one. I'm going to go with I think this is a tough one. I would say probably Room for certain people, because it's so emotional. You're so emotionally invested into it. And also, if you don't know anything about the movie, while it unfolds, it's pretty satisfying. But like, I definitely don't need to see this movie anytime soon.
Yeah, Room is on my list as well, for a lot of those reasons, and the fact that it's not like you're gonna go back and catch anything really. And I think if you were to go back, like, you would just go through the same emotional roller coaster, and
Yeah,
it's
and
just
and
like,
if anything, it would just be worse because you kind of like, although it's gonna be like I rewatched the scene where they reunite, and it's like it's still sad, but like it's not gonna have the same emotional impact. And I feel like it's never gonna touch what it's like the first time you see it.
yeah,
So you can
yeah.
watch it again. It's just like I don't think there's really much need to. It's not like you're gonna get anything really different from it, except for the performances. But yeah, I don't think you need to watch Room again.
Another movie I have on my list is Uncut Gems. This is probably gonna be a more controversial answer for a lot of people, but honestly, because I've watched it twice, and the second time, the whole time I was just like I didn't really feel anything different, and I actually felt less enjoyment than I did the first time. And I mean that's probably a given with most films, but maybe it was just in the proximity that I've watched them. Like it was probably a month or two in between my first viewing of it. Um, yeah, it's strange because I still really like the movie, but I think it's something you only need to see once. I don't know what it is.
It's like good time. I mean, it's a movie that takes place over like a day or two. I think both of them really, like one's over
Hmm.
one night, one maybe over 2 or 3 days. It's just like, yeah, it's just like the timeline just kind of goes as the day moves on. You know what's gonna happen, and it's still, like you said, it's still an enjoyable movie, but
Yeah.
at least give it probably a couple of years before you watch it again if you
And
want
I
to.
think the experience of it as well, in terms of the, like, I've said this word probably 100 times, but the stress that comes with this movie is like, do you really want to put yourself through 2.5 hours of just pure chaos? Like, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
you have to decide whether that's something you like in a movie, because I wouldn't even really consider it a thriller, because there for Uncut Gems there are a lot of highs, but there are a lot of like slow parts in the movie as well.
Yeah. My next one is Call Me by Your Name. Again, a really good movie, but it's definitely very slow, and it's kind of just like a buildup of the characters and how the relationship evolves, and the ending's pretty sad as well. So it's like it's a movie where, again, I don't know what you get out of it after watching another time, unless you were just showing it to somebody else. But to watch it again like by yourself, as because it's not an action movie where you can be like amazed by the stunts or it keeps it exciting. Slower movies like this, where they're like literally just revolves around dialogue, sometimes can be tougher to watch again because you already know exactly what's going to happen, and if there's not action pushing the movie forward, there's nothing really keeping you involved in it. And yeah, it's just kind of one where it's like you watch it the one time, you enjoy it for what it is, see how it impacts you, and I don't think it'll impact you the same if you give it another watch. So
And now I'm looking at the list. I only put 4 movies, so that's my top 4.
okay, I'll give you a couple then because I have a couple on this list. 12 Years a Slave, just another movie where it's like it's just tough to get through, and we're like it's different with Black Klansman or Django Unchained, where they do have a like kind of those almost comedic reliefs under a really dark issue. This movie is just like it's just very sad and tough to get through. So it's a movie where it's like you get it, you appreciate it. It's a very important film, but putting yourself through it again it's tough. And then my last one was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Maybe because there's a lot of different, I don't know, maybe at some points it can be a tad bit confusing. Maybe you'd want to watch it that way again. But it's another movie that's just really sad, and it's an amazing movie. I loved it, but I don't know. It takes you for a ride. So watching it again might put you through some stuff. And also you kind of already know how it ends. So kind of, there's not like there's a massive twist or anything, but you already know what's going to come of it. And amazing movie, but I don't need to watch it again really anytime soon.
You want to move on to the Oscars then now?
Yeah, let's do the Oscars. And I think I said this in the last podcast, but a great selection here. I mean, I think 2015 was one of the best years for movies. Even just looking at the Best Picture awards, some really good stuff. But yeah, as always, let's start off with Best Picture. So Spotlight, what'd you feel about the Best Picture?
So Best Picture was Birdman, right?
Spotlight.
In 2015?
2016. Like these are
Oh,
movies that released in 20 like movies that were released
okay.
in
So then,
2015 but the 2016
okay.
Oscars.
So 2016. I gotta scroll down. Yeah. Spotlight, The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max, The Martian, The Revenant, and Room. So I've seen a lot of movies on this list,
Which
which
helps.
is, yeah. Spotlight is definitely a great movie. I think it relies a lot on factual like accuracy for it to have done so well.
I get what you mean. Like the screenplay itself, the points that kind of drive the story are just based on true events, so it kind of like, which is fair, but I mean
Yeah.
it's
It
they
shouldn't
already
take
were
anything
given a
away from
story.
it.
But it was given, the story was given to them.
For The Big Short, I think that like that's another one where um it's like a story that has, I don't think the story of the housing bubble has actually been told before, but not a lot of films have been told like this, in terms of the way that they, like I've mentioned it before, how they simplify a lot of the more complicated points in the film that other movies would just assume that the viewers understand what's going on. Like in The Wolf of Wall Street, or another film that requires kind of a preconceived knowledge on a lot of financial terms and stuff. This movie actually simplifies it in a very fun and innovative way. Do I think it's Best Picture? I don't. I would probably put Spotlight over it, and um, Mad Max Fury Road as a nomination. It is a great movie.
Some people,
Um,
like many people, think it's the best movie of the year.
I don't. I would still probably put Room
Yeah.
or The Revenant up there as well, but I still think it's between Room or Spotlight for me.
I think every movie on this list brings something different. I haven't seen Brooklyn. I think that's the only one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But like it's interesting because it's funny. Like The Revenant is almost like Mad Max just in the past. Like just not much dialogue and just absolute chaos. Like it just is not like dialogue is not the main point or not the main focus at all. And I almost loved all these movies. I mean, Mad Max, there's the point's not needed. It's just chaos, action. If that's what you love, you're gonna like the movie if you like action. It's exactly what it brings. Spotlight, amazing acting, great story, brought in really nicely weaved together. The Martian was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. In Room, we talked about it. Amazing. I mean, no movie has impacted me on this list like Room's impacted me.
Yeah.
I just, and maybe because I've seen it the most recent, but
The recency
God,
bias is there, but it's just like none of these movies pushed me emotionally, right? And it's like,
no.
and I don't think any movie has like that I've seen in recent memory. So,
Yeah, I don't really
and
cry in movies, and I don't. If you didn't at least tear up during that movie, like
yeah.
you're a psychopath.
So Room gets the pick for me as Best Picture, I think,
And the
overall.
same thing is, I'm not even mad that Spotlight won it though, because they're
Yeah.
all great movies. So really, any of these wouldn't have hurt my soul
And
if they won.
but the thing is for me as well, I don't think there's any like individual outstanding acting performances in Spotlight. I think it's a good story. Um, Mark Ruffalo's good in it.
There's a lot of characters
Um,
where it's like, yeah, they're kind of they all
you
carry
could have
the
you could
carry the
have had
load.
you could have had anyone play their role
Hmm.
really.
They did it really
Um,
well though for what it is.
but for Room, it relies so much on good acting, and I think that's another like big thing about it.
Definitely. So yeah, Spotlight, not mad about it, but I still think Room should have won. And but the also thing is like, I feel like maybe why it didn't get it is because it's like Spotlight is it's what they talk about is probably just as dark or darker, but they don't really show it. It's behind the scenes what goes on. So it's a little more accessible and like digestible for people to watch. You're kind of just hearing it, where in Room, like you're seeing it, like it's right in front of your eyes. So I think that might have been tougher for people to watch, and it could have taken away from people's viewing experience. But you know, if you have thick skin.
But the thing is, I think that's also something you can praise it for because of how authentic it makes it seem, and how gritty it is. But
yeah, it's like there's definitely movies made for Oscars. Like I feel like Best Picture isn't always the best picture. It's just like what's kind of fit the Oscars, and Spotlight is like right there, like perfect.
Yeah,
for Oscars.
in terms of its like political impact as
Perfect. Everything, yeah, everything about it. But we will go to actor in a leading role. Leo won it for The Revenant, of course, his only win. And Bryan Cranston in Trumbo, Matt Damon in The Martian, Michael Fassbender, Steve Jobs, and Eddie Redmayne in The Danish Girl. So what'd you think about this one?
I think Leo definitely, like, I won't say there's no contest because Michael Fassbender, I think, did a great job in Steve Jobs. I haven't seen Trumbo. Matt Damon was good, but I don't think it, like, blew me away. Eddie Redmayne.
It was good for what it was. It was like he played the role great, but yeah.
It's not like you could have taken a lot of creative liberties on that role, really. But Eddie Redmayne as well did a fantastic job in The Danish Girl. I would still give it to Leo just because of how realistic he made the whole scenario seem. It's not easy to be put in a role like that and to kind of master and immerse yourself into that environment. And I think overall it's one of the best films of the year, really.
Yeah, I think if they gave this to somebody else other than Leo, it would have been just disrespectful. The amount of pain this guy had to go through to make this movie. They filmed it on location. They used natural light for the entire movie, so it wasn't like there was no comfort in making this movie. And yeah, like it felt very real. You felt very uncomfortable throughout the entire movie. Like it was, you almost felt like you're out there in the cold with him, and just the hard, just like you picture yourself in people that lived back then, and you're like I said in the last one, I'm just glad I'm sitting on a couch eating some popcorn watching this movie, because that just looks like absolute hell. And the real guy, Hugh Glass, who he played, really did get attacked by a bear. And yeah, it would just been like, if you didn't give this to Leo, like it would have been disrespectful. He played a great performance, and what he had to go through it also, I think, takes it over the top.
Actor in a supporting role?
Yeah. So Mark Rylance, I think that's how you pronounce his name, in Bridge of Spies, Christian Bale, The Big Short, Tom Hardy in The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo, Spotlight, and Sylvester Stallone in Creed.
I don't think Sylvester Stallone should be up there.
He was whatever, but I mean,
Mark Ruffalo was cool. Tom Hardy, I don't even remember him much in that movie, just because Leo kind of took over the whole thing. Christian Bale, I definitely think could have won. I haven't seen Bridge of Spies, so I can't comment on it. But Christian Bale was really good in The Big Short, kind of playing like a nerdy, indulgent and aware entrepreneur guy. Definitely a very good portrayal of that. He probably would have been my pick.
Yeah, so Bridge of Spies was the only movie I hadn't seen on this list. Tom Hardy was my favorite out of this list because he was such a dick in it, and he was just so hardcore. And again, you can just like, he played, I feel like what I believed at least a person back then would be would be like, just like tough, gritty mountain men, and he just absolutely no heart. The only problem is like, yeah, he doesn't get much screen time in this movie, but it says a lot how he was nominated for this, because Leo almost dominates the entire movie in screen time, and Tom Hardy kind of just comes like beginning, end, and scattered with the middle. He's not kind of like a reoccurring part where like Mark Ruffalo, like pretty much a main character. Like it's just, if it wasn't for, I guess they're saying Michael Keaton's probably the main character in that movie, but Mark Ruffalo's right there. Same with Sylvester Stallone, Christian Bale, like all these characters are pretty much there throughout the whole movie. But for I think I don't know like how to describe like acting per screen time. I don't know how to like say that properly, but I'd give that to Tom Hardy. But yeah, all great acting performances. But yeah, I didn't see Bridge of Spies, so I can't really say how Marky Mark did in that. But actress in a leading role, I don't even want to talk about it. It's Brie Larson. Nobody else, I don't think, touched her performance.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about Room enough for like 2 episodes pretty much, so we can move on to actress in a supporting role. Alicia Vikander, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, the Danish girl. Yes, she was very good. Jennifer Jason Leigh, I've seen The Hateful Eight. The name isn't familiar. Let me check.
She was in Good Time. He was his girlfriend. She was his girlfriend.
Yeah, I know, but I want to see who her character was in The Hateful Eight. That lady. Okay.
Because I don't.
She had the big furry hat on. Okay.
That's another movie where people are very up and down about.
The Hateful Eight?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was crazy.
Yeah, just that's tough. I don't know. She was good, but no, Alicia Vikander was very good.
Yeah, I mean Rachel McAdams was good. I don't know if she like blew me away in a performance, and Kate Winslet was.
Well, that's the thing about Spotlight.
Nobody to Steve Jobs.
Nobody really like blew me away, which is why it's so like. I guess as a complete story, you can nominate it, but in terms of individual acting performances, I don't think like Michael Keaton. Okay, at best, I think he didn't really. There wasn't a lot demanding of him in the performance, in comparison to something like Birdman. But yeah, it's a good movie, but it's not demanding in terms of like its crew. Like,
yeah, I see that. So let's give it to Alicia then. She deserves it. I've never seen the movie, but I should. Next, and we'll finish it off with this cinematography. So it was The Revenant, Carol, The Hateful Eight, Mad Max Fury Road, and Sicario, and The Revenant won.
So Roger Deakins lost for Sicario, which sucked because I love Roger Deakins, but he just got outworked in this. I mean, The Revenant, of course, is just a crazy film in general, technical wise. That whole scene with the bear, of course, is something that a lot of people have talked about forever. But in terms of the cinematography, it's also a really technical film. When you're watching it from start to finish, you can tell there was a lot of work put into it. Probably my runner-up would have been Mad Max, but I still would give it to The Revenant, I think.
Yeah, I feel that too. I think The Revenant, and also because in the circumstances, using only natural light, tough circumstances, just you're dealing with far up north BC weather, blizzards, extreme cold, going through water, forests, just it's tough to film in nature. I think like the kind of the deserts, although very hot, it's a lot more of a controlled environment to film in. And Mad Max's cinematography is amazing. It's mind-blowing. The Revenant, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, they do such a good job of following Leo's character, but also kind of what they did, like they did long one-shots as well, where you see Leo, but also everything that's going on in the background, like when he's getting chased by the natives and everything like that. Just, I love how they filmed the movie. It's almost like they used like a different type of lens, how they were able to, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I definitely think The Revenant comes through with it. Mad Max, again, visually stunning, but I think The Revenant maybe tells a little more of a story with the cinematography as well.
For sure. Yeah, no arguments there. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the awards.
Yeah, I always find directing confusing. I guess maybe because like what you're dealt with and the circumstances of the movie, how tough it is to direct. Because I mean, like, unless you're on set, it's It's not like they're filming them directing, but I don't
Yeah.
really know how they decide that category. But other than that, yeah, I think we've done our dues here. Little recap, good time, watch it. Don't
It's
get
a
mad if
good
you don't.
time.
Yeah, it's a good time. Not a happy time, but it is a good time. Oscars, a lot of competition, but really could have gone with any of these movies. Then yeah. So next movie I think we're gonna do is Hereditary, which, as the director says, has the same DNA as Midsummer. So I'm interested to see it. I'm a little scared
I don't
because
know, man. This is
I started watching it like a couple months ago, and then one scene popped up, and I was like, I'm just gonna put this away. But we're gonna. I would hate myself if I don't watch it, so maybe I'll keep the lights on or something. Have a night light while I'm watching.
Yeah. I think it's also going to be comforting knowing that I'm not the only person watching this movie around 11 p.m. at night. So that's going to be,
Yeah, I'm only watching movies at 11 p.m. at night for some reason
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up things. So thank you guys for listening and go watch Hereditary.
Peace.